Hello and welcome to The Take with Dhillon and Bogutskaya. How are you doing, Anna?
I'm worried for my life.
I'm really worried for both of our lives. We've got to say, this morning has been a real, how can I say show without using the word?
It's been a dramatic experience. There has been a coffee that's been spilled over the entire table, almost over my laptop. This would be the third time that I almost spill liquid over a laptop. Not a great run for me.
Nope.
Someone fell over, a light fell over onto someone.
Yep.
Then one of my headphones just split apart.
Yeah. I forgot to put any face cream on this morning. Really threw me.
That's bad.
Really threw me.
That will ruin your entire day.
Got on the train, really upset.
Yeah.
No one wants dry skin all day.
Moisturize, everyone.
I was doing an interview a while ago with Saoirse Ronan and a light fell down on top of us, in between us.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was mad.
In the middle of a sort of junket setup. Is that the worst?
It was a really light light. Luckily, they're not like the big theatre lights anymore, but it was quite a shock. We both screamed.
Is that the worst thing that's ever happened to you during an interview?
Ben Affleck had to go and vomit once during my interview with him. That was a fun day. And what was worse was he'd been really like monosyllabic up until that point. And I was like, this interview is going terribly. And then he excused himself to go and throw up. And obviously he came back and he was feeling so much better and suddenly got like much more like verbose. But they wouldn't let me start the interview again. And they were like, no, you have 2 minutes left. I was like, that feels very unfair.
2 questions. Did he tell you he was going to go throw up? And the second one is, did he acknowledge it during the interview? And did you keep that part in?
He did not really acknowledge it.
Okay.
He just excused himself very quickly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lily. Lily's just brought us in some nice cold water, which is what I need because I've also got a scratchy throat. I tell you what, it's been a morning, Anna. It's been quite the morning.
I'm putting this water as far away as possible from my laptop because I tell you what, I got Coca-Cola spilled on a previous laptop in a bag on my way back from Bradford.
That's sticky as well.
It was it basically fried it. And I'd only had that computer for about 6 months. And then this is the most millennial thing I will ever say on air. I accidentally spilled kombucha on my keyboard.
Oh, no, you did it. Yeah, that
is. And also, this is the most boring anecdote. So I'm going to stop it here.
Thank you so much, by the way, to all of the lovely comments and emails that we had over the past week from last week when we sat in for Simon and Mark.
Yes,
it was just really lovely, and no one called us shrill this time.
Yes,
that I've seen.
We were annoying.
Yeah, which was kind.
Well, it's refreshing being 2 female film critics.
Shrill is always the word we get.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, thank you so much for the comments. Our egos are very fragile and we need validation constantly. I'm speaking for myself here.
But it is just very kind when people take time out of their day to tell you a nice thing. And I appreciate it. So thanks.
I appreciate all comments, even the bad ones.
Do you?
Yeah.
I do not. What have we got coming up in Take 1 today, Anna?
So there really is something for everyone this episode because you've got the raunchy comedy joyride coming up, the really heartfelt follow-up second season of the teen drama Heartstopper, and also Nicole Holofcener's new film, You Hurt My Feelings.
Yeah, so I got to speak to Nicole Holofcener and it was just a really good excuse for our WhatsApp to go off on how much we fancy James Gandolfini in Enough Said.
This is true, and single-handedly the only reason why I rewatched it last night as well, and can confirm on a very, very recent rewatch, James Gandolfini, wonderful, really sexy man.
Incredibly sexy. We've got in Take 2, Kokomo City and Paris Memories. One Frame Back is inspired by Joyride. So I love that instead of looking at raunchy films, which I feel like we could have done very easily, we're taking, a slightly nicer approach with childhood friends. So we're going to hear from listeners about their fave movies about childhood friends. Anna is going to have a stab at Pretentious, moi. You got it last week.
I did.
Which is very impressive.
Also, spoiler alert, I am pretentious.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And can you get 2-0 lead? That's what I want to know. We'll find out very soon. Do support us via Apple Podcasts or head to extratakes.com for non-fruit related devices. And then, because I'm sure you're missing them terribly, in Take 3, Mark and Simon are going to be back to update us on how they're getting on with the cruise. So do make sure that you join the Vanguard to hear them chatting about that glamorous boat life. Mark and Simon have also curated a weekend of movies at their Peckham site on Saturday the 19th and Sunday the 20th of August, which is really exciting because I love this particular rooftop cinema. The Bussey building, I used to live in Peckham, used to spend a lot of balmy evenings up and drinking on Frank's, which is like the car park. Space. It's a great space. Yeah.
I went to a wedding there actually once. Some friends of mine got married there a couple of years ago.
That is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So you'll have a day of sci-fi films, Back to the Future, Arrival, Interstellar, all incredible films. A day of rom-com movies. Sign me up. And then a sort of special exclusive intro recorded by Mark and Simon before each film. So Sunday's rom-com day is Notting Hill, You've Got Mail, and When Harry Met Sally. You can head to kermodeandmayo.com to get your tickets now. It's Rooftop Film Club. They have really comfy deck chairs, iconic Peckham views, and irresistible food and drink. Plus, they have offered their listeners 2-for-1 tickets across their London sites on Wednesdays throughout their summer programme. So make sure you take advantage of that. Just use the code THETAKE at checkout to redeem the offer. It's time for emails.
Yes.
In relation to the code of conduct, i.e. things that you can and can't do in the cinema, this person says, I've been to many movies over the years, seen some weird stuff in the darkness, been yelled at for shushing someone, but this takes the biscuit. At the Auckland Film Festival premiere this week, about 10 minutes into a very good French film called Anatomy of a Fall.
Oh, love it. I saw it in Cannes. It's a wonderful film.
Excellent. The guy behind me tapped me on the shoulder and loudly said, excuse me, mate, excuse me, can you flatten your hair down a bit for me? I think I took offence more to this due to the fact that I am very light on top in the hair department.
Bless.
Thanks, and up with sticky uppy hair from Jens.
Can I tell you the absolutely most deranged thing I've ever witnessed in a cinema screen?
Go on.
So this was at the Berlin Film Festival at the world premiere of the Donna Summer documentary.
Uh-huh.
And, this is the first time anyone has seen this film ever. And it was a mix of press and public, full massive screen. Right next to me, there's an older man who about 10 minutes into the film takes his phone and fully starts recording the film. And I'm not even meaning like portrait, I want to take a few snapshots for TikTok or something. I don't think he was a TikToker. Anyway, He fully put it in landscape mode and was recording for about a full 5 minutes. I was so flabbergasted. It took me completely out of the film.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say because 2 rows behind him were the filmmakers and the daughter of Donna Summer, who was one of the co-directors of the film.
And they didn't say anything?
Didn't say anything. He did it again. He did it a second time. And at this point...
You're like making me itch. This is like horrific.
Someone, a very intense Berlinale German guard came up, leaned his entire body over me and whisper screamed in German at the man.
Whisper screamed.
He literally... I'm lost for words. Videoing an entire film in the presence of filmmakers at a major film festival, landscape mode. In what world?
Appalling behaviour. I really do not like that. Do not do that. Don't do it. We're starting our reviews this week with something that I have been such a huge fan of for such a long time, and that is Heartstopper. So, of course, we have season 2 that's just coming out. Season 1, Anna, I feel like you weren't necessarily in the huge kind of furore that happened.
Well, I was not, because believe it or not, despite my glowing complexion, I am not, in fact, 17 years old.
You shock me. You amaze me, Anna. What?
No, I'm being a bit silly, but this was something that you really encouraged me to watch. Mm-hmm. I had never seen a single episode of Heartstopper before last week. Mm-hmm. And I have since binged the first season and the second season, which is landing today and Friday on Netflix. And actually, we're gonna turn it around a little bit because me as a deeply dead inside individual, as a black-hearted carcass of a person that I am, I felt that maybe it would be better that you would take this one and
Okay.
review Heartstopper season 2 because you're such a big fan. And honestly, I want to hear you talk about this series.
I'm kind of thrilled about this. So if you don't know Heartstopper, living under a rock, etc. But it's the series about two teenage boys starring Joe Locke and Kit Connor as Charlie and Nick, falling in love. Let's have a listen to a clip.
I'm Charlie and you're
Charlie. Right. I'm David, sorry. So I'm Nick's older brother.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And where did you two meet?
We're in the same form at school. David.
There he is. I was just getting acquainted with Charlie here.
Yeah, well, we're busy, so you can go away now. You okay?
Yeah.
I just wanted to meet the guy that, that turned my little brother gay.
What?
I mean, I should have always known you'd turn out to be gay, really.
I'm bi, actually. And so what?
And they're sort of understanding their sexuality. I don't want to say, kind of coming to terms with, but because one is very firmly out, having previously been outed, and there's kind of a lot of trauma that is tied up with that. And another one who is just kind of coming to understand who he is, which is bisexual. And it's based on a YA graphic novel series by Alice Oseman, who also writes the show. And it's also about their LGBTQ plus group of friends and allies, and about the bullies from who they try and hide their relationship. So Series 2 expands this world even more, with Nick trying to figure out how to come out to his friends and his family, and he and the gang are sort of negotiating more parental input than the last series, and also just the overwhelmingly exciting rite of passage for lucky privileged teens, which is going to France on a school trip. Very, very, very keen to get stuck into this. And I have to say, it was a pleasure to be back in just this very kind world. It's like a sigh of relief because these protagonists are all very kind, sweet kids.
Everyone is on this show.
They are, right? And I have to say, the first 3 episodes felt a little bit repetitive. It's because it's about Nick figuring out how to come out. And we just kind of hear this conversation and again, which of course I understand in reality is what would be happening. To watch that again and again is slightly frustrating, especially when there are other areas to explore. But I loved all of these topics that it was covering, and I was kind of anxious because in series 1, they set Nick and Charlie up to in such a beautiful way that I thought that they might have to tear them down a bit in series 2 to create some sort of tension. Luckily, that's not what it's about. It's all about the external pressures and individual issues, but they are just an incredibly strong team played by Joe Locke and Kit Connor. And there are still like a few things that I don't buy. And we talked about this. I need to know from teachers listening, if your children are going on a school trip, would the teenagers, boys and girls, be made to share a bed?
We spoke about this because I was made to share a bed on a school trip
Which
when I was a
find
teenager.
So wild.
Well, it's Spain.
Lily did. So
it's not just a Mediterranean thing. Thank you.
I find it really bizarre. I wonder if, in this day and age where people are more aware of boundaries and think, well, Lily, how old are you? Do you mind me asking? Lily just answered.
That was wonderful.
That she was 12 years old. She's not 12 years old. She's 26, but it happened when she was 12. Okay. I still find that's fairly recent. So sickeningly young. But I don't know. This something that didn't quite ring true. It didn't also ring true that there were maybe only 2 male teachers on a school trip.
Well, there's the rugby trainer who's a woman as well.
No, she wasn't there.
She's not on the Paris trip, but she's in the show.
Oh yeah, she's not on the Paris trip.
Yeah. No, I find it really funny that is your sticking point.
That was my sticking point. There's no way. And also, there's a scene where one of Charlie's best friends, Tao, decides that it might be too awkward for Nick and Charlie to share a bed, so he claims one and Isaac claims the other. So they split the pair up. I think in reality, if I was with my boyfriend or girlfriend on a trip and my best friend was like, no, you don't get to sleep in the same bed, I'd kill them.
I was not expecting that.
I would actually kill them.
I mean, I find Tao to be the most, one of the most genuine characters on the show, which is perhaps a weird thing to say, but I do find his like constant fear of abandonment by his friends to be really tender and really true. But this is why I really wanted to hear your thoughts on it, because I was not part of the Heartstopper kind of phenomenon. I know what it is and I was aware of it, but it is so firmly a show. And I say this in the best possible way. You know, I grew up kind of without any positive LGBTQ plus representation. I was bullied for being, quote unquote, being a lesbian. I'm not a lesbian, I'm bisexual. But I do remember this period of like being told who you are by other people, and most of it being negative. I don't need the show right now anymore, but I love that it exists.
Yeah.
And I also really love that it knows exactly who its audience is. That audience is not necessarily me right now.
No.
But I love that there are people, especially younger people, especially teenagers, who are figuring themselves out without, you know, needing to watch shows that are so graphic and intense and dark, like Euphoria, like anything that's on HBO and stuff like that. It was like, you don't need such extreme adult dramas to be in a high school setting. You can't have essentially this fantasy of being a teenager. And I do think of Heartstopper. It took me a little while to get into it, perhaps because I needed to adjust kind of, you know, through which lens I was viewing this and really take myself back to being a teenager and being a confused teenager, and also trying to imagine what teenagers in 2023 or 2022 might be looking at this show like. And it is unrealistic. I don't think anyone comes to Heartstopper looking for true to life experiences. It's all like a fantasy. And that's okay. I think it is really smartly written for an audience, for a really young audience. And it's not trying to be anything other than that. And I will say all the filmmaking choices in it, the cinematography, the kind of small touches of, you know, special effects and drawings and animations, the performers are truly young performers. They're not 27-year-olds pretending to be 15-year-olds. It all feels so catered to a preteen and teen audience that I completely see its value.
I think it's so well-meaning, and it is trying to reflect everyone's experience, which is a very tough thing to do. But I think you're so right. We're not expecting these to be exact, kind of fully well-rounded people. They're characters that you take what you want to from each, right? I'm a little bit of this person. I'm a little bit of that. And I think you're right. The character development has been really strong into series 2, especially with Tao and Isaac, because like you say, Tao comes across as this sort of insecure, stroppy pain in series 1 at times. And then you can just see him working on that insecurity, which is really gratifying. You know, it's not an overnight thing, but he's actually working on it. And then with Isaac, who is this boy who the whole way through, all he wants to do is read. And every time he's at...
Really relatable.
Oh my gosh. Every time he's at like a social event, he has a book. And that was always me. And there is a scene where he is sitting outside a room in France, in Paris, while everyone is partying inside. That literally happened to me on my Paris school trip. Yeah. And I was the one that was sitting outside by myself. All of my close friends weren't there. And I felt very isolated. And I remember sitting outside in the corridor and people would be like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just having a think. And I could just hear them laughing about it inside.
Oh, baby Rhianna.
But I was like,
so
that was me. And I'd completely forgotten this memory until I saw it happening with Isaac. And they do such a great job of exploring, you know, what happens to people who are on the periphery of romantic relationships. What happens if you are asexual or aromantic? What does that look like? So I just think it's not about trying to portray everything as perfectly or as accurately as possible, but it's making people, young people who won't have had the platform or opportunity to discuss this with their friends or might not have read the right books which talk about it, to see themselves. And I just think there is nothing better than that. So huge fan of this. And also Olivia Colman, still a G. Rachel Sterling makes a terrifying cameo towards the end. It's just, I think it's very well cast. I think it does deal with how your family might react to you being gay in a real kind of, with a real spectrum, you know, because you have Nick's mother, played by Olivia Colman, who is incredibly accepting. You don't know much about his family. You learn much more about them in this series. And his brother has like such a kind of classic, horrible machismo reaction, but is immediately shut down by everybody because everybody in this is an ally to some extent, which is so beautiful. So still to come, Anna.
Well, we've got the new Nicole Holofcener film, You Hurt My Feelings, starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Tobias Menzies, and also the raunchy friendship comedy Joyride.
You can hear my interview as well with Nicole, so please do stick around for that. We're going to be back after this short break. It's time for the box office top 10. So obviously last week you reviewed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, which I kind of just want you to say again, just for some giggles.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem?
You did it. You're great.
Yes. There we go.
So it's not actually in the box office this week because it only came out on Monday, but I'll be interested to see what it's like next week because people have been loving that movie. At number 18 in the UK, Virgin Suicides, which we both loved. At number 14 in the UK, not charted in the US, is Mavka, The Forest Song. Dear Super Subs, I went to my local cinema this morning to see the Ukrainian animation Mavka, The Forest Song in the English dub, and I loved it. It's a really sweet and beautifully animated film that wonderfully encapsulates both Ukraine's cultural heritage and its current inspiring perseverance. We live in an era of children's animations that carry profound messages of equality, optimism, and compassion. To have created a film that continues this tradition and competes with the best that Pixar, Illuminations, and Disney have to offer, all while your country is at war with literal evil, is an incredible achievement. However, it wasn't the inspiring nature of the film that motivates me in writing this email. What's motivating me is that I was the only attendee at the screening today, and I think this film deserves better, and I hope that the Church of Wittertainment can help. It's a sweet film with limited peril that would be suitable for quite young children and adults alike. It deserves a wide audience. Help with the cultural exchange between Ukraine and the world. Help the Ukrainian filmmakers whose work is being stolen by Russian cinemas, and enjoy a really fun kids' film. Go and see Mavka, The Forest Song. Tinkety Tonk and...
Slava Ukraine.
Thank you, Anna. That's from David in Cambridge. P.S. I've seen that the film is reviewed in this week's Take 2. I look forward to listening. Uh-oh.
Oh, dear.
But I think it would be great if the intelligent, attractive, wise and magnanimous production team were to include correspondence on this film in Take 1. Winky
And
face.
they have.
And they have. It worked. The flattery absolutely worked. Thank you so much, David. I have to say, Anna and I were maybe less enamoured with it than you were, but I do really hope that people go and see it and that there are no more single attendees in cinemas.
I do think there is a really good point that he makes, which is it is incredibly appropriate for very young children.
Yeah.
I think it's a good one to take, toddlers, very young kids too.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. UK number 10, not charted in the US, it's Bro. At UK number 9, US number 10, it's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. At UK number 8, US number 9, it's Insidious, The Red Door. At UK number 7, not charted in the US, it's Rocky and Rani Kill Prem Kahani. At UK number 6, US number 7, it's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And at UK number 5, US number 6, it's Talk to Me.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, the film was made by the infamous Raka Raka brothers, who were known primarily as YouTubers, so people are loving seeing that they've made an A24 film.
Yeah, good for the Filippo brothers.
They are hilarious and so mad to watch.
They're extremely funny, but also the film has been massively successful. I'm really happy to see it so high up in the box office charts after we reviewed it last week. It was my film of the week last week.
It was.
And I think it's been the highest grossing release for Altitude, who's the film's distributor, I think, in their history.
No way.
I think so, yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Good for everyone.
And also for a horror movie. This is exciting stuff.
And for an original horror movie, not a sequel, not a requel, not a remake, but an original first feature as well. I'll echo what I said last week in Take 1. It is deeply impressive that this is a debut movie. And, when I interviewed them for my podcast, they talked about kind of having this Bible of mythology and this universe around the world of the hand. You'll know what I'm talking about if and when you say Talk to Me. But I really hope they go on to do other things, but they have established kind of a completely new potential horror universe.
We have an email. Dear Racket and Racket, this evening I took a trip to the Phoenix Arts Centre in Leicester to see Talk to Me. I was highly anticipating this one, being an A24 obsessive, you and me both, and a huge fan for many years of directors Danny and Michael Philippou from their YouTube videos. I thought the film was fantastic, superb performances all around, particularly from Sophie Wilde and Alexandra Jensen. I agree with Anna's point last week that the smart thing about the film is its primary focus on one singular character, Mia. Combining personal tragedy with possession antics was a very moving experience, and the use of the brothers' background in fast, over-the-top editing really powered this movie to the top of 2023's best for me. More than anything, though, even as just a fan, I just wanted to say how proud I am of Danny and Michael for getting this movie made. It's clear how much it means to them, and with the box office results being superb thus far, I really hope we get to see more of them on the big screen soon. Despite the initial reaction to the film being one of a disturbing nature, an hour on, I just feel happy that we have young filmmakers who have spent their lives dedicated to the art form, who finally got their shot at the big time. I love them. All the best,
That's
Elliot.
so sweet.
That is adorable, can I just say? And we have another one from Kat who said, "Hi, I'm not usually a horror fan, but Anna's enthusiasm encouraged me to see Talk to Me, and I found it really enthralling. I was struck by the tactility of it. The filmmakers really connected the textures on the screen to sensations I felt I could really sense in my fingertips: sweaty skin, squelching gore, and the unsettling newspapery texture of the haunted hand. Thanks." And that's from Kat Megson. Thank you,
I am
Kat Megson.
so happy to be converting non-horror people to horror one person at a time. Thank you, Kat, for going to see it. And that's sound design for you, baby. That's what it feels like when it's that great.
God, it must be so gratifying being you sometimes. I love it. UK number 4, US number 8. Sorry, I don't know what that meant
You
by
do
that.
not want to live in this head.
UK number 4, US number 8, it's Elemental. Ahoy, hoy, Andor Deck. As always, thank you for existing. I always seem to start an email to you both with a life event, and I'm afraid this email isn't any different. My mother passed away this year after a short battle with cancer. My 6-year-old niece is reluctant to talk about it. Recently, Rowan and I went to see Elemental, our first cinema trip with just us two. I read her the code of conduct on the way to the cinema and baptised her with the prescribed blessed Wittertainment water. This resulted in her being incredibly well behaved, and she ate her popcorn like a ninja. I loved the film, and I found it relatable as a son of Indian immigrants. I welled up on several occasions, and afterwards I spoke to her about how my mum and father went through similar experiences when they immigrated from India, which seemed to bring about a glimmer of understanding from her. However, I do slightly resent the suggestion that the differences between us are as vast as the differences between the elements, when we're all in reality the same species of the Homo sapien. Kind regards, Shen. Thank you so much, Shen. I'm so sorry to hear about your mother. That must be just incredibly heartbreaking, but I'm glad that you found some solace in Elemental. At number 3 in the UK, number 5 in the US, it's Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And at number 2 in both the UK and the US, it is, of course, Oppenheimer. Dear back and to the left, JFK 91.
Jesus.
Nolan's latest is both an engaging and immersive experience, but ultimately a disappointing one. Cinematography is on point, and the usual suspects give outstanding performances. But even Nolan's pervasive, sub-honking soundscape cannot hide the impact of the cutting room carnage, evident as he tries desperately to slice a biopic courtroom drama and suspense thriller into the 3-hour running time. The result is a first act that feels rushed and impatient rather than pacey, and characters from Pugh and Blunt that are largely wasted, when a more focused biopic treatment could have seen award nominations for either of them. Suspense is built up well throughout the Los Alamos act, but the final courtroom denouement and its shonky reveal felt like watching the air escape from a beautifully baked soufflé. A disappointing lack of substance with whiffs of cheese, and that's from Tim in Tunbridge Wells.
I'm a big fan of film criticism via food metaphors.
Yeah, me too. I was like, I love the cheese references. I don't know what I do agree with you about Pugh and Blunt. They are largely wasted. It almost feels like if you're gonna, why bother having women in this at all? I fully lean into the.
What strikes me the most about that email is I wonder what he means by the traditional. I mean, I know exactly what he means by the traditional biopic treatment, and actually, I think that is the strength of Oppenheimer is that. It's not trying to fit into the mold that we see 1,000 times over, especially around award season, of the traditional biopic of a very consequential historical figure. It is a filmmaker trying to make an art film, a blockbuster art film, and only Nolan can do that because only he is afforded that kind of budget. I mean, one of the most interesting things, and I'm not going to go into the Barbenheimer thing again, one of the most interesting things about this moment in both those films is that they are essentially big budget art films where the two very different filmmakers go wild with very pointed aesthetic choices. And I do think that Oppenheimer is a very new and interesting take on the traditional biopic. Times it is pulled back into that formulaic nature, but when it's pulled out of it and when he goes hog wild, that's when it shines the most.
I didn't find any of it tedious, actually. I did love all of it. And I found that sort of final third, especially with the horror elements that creep in, incredibly disturbing. And again, the use of sound design.
Oh, the sound design is
just
glorious.
Absolutely pinned me to my seat, including the silence. But thank you so much, Tim in Tunbridge Wells. Dear Atom Bomb and H Bomb, me and my partner recently completed the much vaunted Barbenheimer over the space of 2 days at our local independent cinema in Brighton. Oh, which one?
Also, should I call you the R-Bomb now?
Call me the R-Bomb whenever you like, baby. Please let me know which independent cinema you saw this in Brighton, please. As a history enthusiast and teacher, I was expecting to much prefer the Oppenheimer movie, but hoped the Barbie movie would provide little light relief. How wrong I was. First, Barbie. It's simply brilliant. Bitingly satirical, scathingly funny, and a visual feast. Margot Robbie is brilliant, but Ryan Gosling steals the show as the fragile and narcissistic Ken. Its final sequence is also surprisingly moving as Barbie meets her maker. On Oppenheimer, however, the feeling was much more mixed. There is a brilliant movie in there somewhere, struggling to free itself from a much larger, baggier movie. Murphy as Oppie is great. The scenes of the scientific planning and the execution of the bomb are also excellent, though I would have liked more of the moral struggle brought to the fore. However, the second half of the movie, after the bombs are dropped, spoiler, feels more like a total anticlimax. Frankly, I could care less about the congressional hearings and who said what to whom. Robert Downey Jr.'s character, though a total narcissist, is largely incidental and adds little of value to the film.
Oh, he was not incidental, my friend.
Blimey. Plus, the treatment of the female characters is at best cursory. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's true.
Overall, a worthy movie, which, had it been an hour and a half long, would be a shoo-in for Best Picture. As it is, the longer it goes on, the less interesting it is. Perhaps Nolan just needs a better editor. Tinkety tonk and down with atomic warfare, Jack in Brighton.
I find it really curious that it's the second email that has mentioned, a failed attempt at the awards. Obviously, awards season has not started yet.
We have no idea how this is going to fall.
I mean, we always have an idea. And
okay.
I think it's really naive that people think that Oppenheimer does not have a shot at the awards because it's 3 hours long. It's gonna get nominated. It's Christopher Nolan. Yeah, I mean, we don't have the time, and that's a whole nother podcast about the mechanics and the politics of award season and film awards. But yeah, Oppenheimer is absolutely gonna get awards attention. I mean, I will eat my shoe if
you're shoeing. Your awards shoe-in.
It was a reference to Werner Herzog eating his shoe, which is a video that everybody should watch. It is available on YouTube for German cinema nerds like myself. But yes, I will eat my shoe much in the vein of Werner Herzog if Cillian Murphy is not nominated for an Oscar.
Agreed. On to Barbie then, which is of course number one everywhere. Dear Barbie and Ken, I listened to the letter on last week's podcast from someone who felt people were uncritically consuming Barbie and its 90s messages, and Anna's spirited and fierce response. I heard this prior to seeing Barbie and it stuck in my mind as I settled into the cinema. But were you wearing pink, Jenny? Barbie was a riot. I laughed. I felt warmth in my heart, and my love for Ryan Gosling has blossomed out of control. But more than that, as I wake the next morning, all I can think about is that letter. I am a proud and staunch intersectional feminist, starting my uni's feminist society when none had existed prior, and now running a feminist society for my own pupils in the secondary school in which I teach. Jenny, my hero. I grew up with the messages of 90s feminism in all its girl power glory. Yes, Barbie has a very simplistic girls are capable message. And yes, some of its views are problematic. Don't get me started on how they portray the horror of cellulite. But it does critique Mattel and the very concept of Barbie. It does mock the idea that Barbie solved feminism by having the doll take on a number of roles. It does deconstruct elements of toxic masculinity. Yes, it is surface level introductory feminism. And yes, it is reminiscent of 90s feminism. But so what? Without girl power and the Spice Girls, a lot of women my age would perhaps be less vocal feminists. But we can now look back on that era and say the feminism we were sold isn't good enough, and here's why. And perhaps in 30 years, my niece's generation will be more advanced in their feminism than us and can look back at Barbie, their introduction to the patriarchy and all its oppressive issues, see the roots of their feminism and critically evaluate to move the cause forward. Up with introducing more people to the joys of feminism and fighting for equality. Down with the woman behind me in the cinema who deemed Barbie too political.
Isn't it too political and not political enough?
And here's to more and more young people being exposed to the fundamental flaws within society and becoming more proactive in recognising, acknowledging and fighting oppression. Tinkety tonk, Jenny. I think that's my favourite email. No notes.
It's a great email.
That's just fantastic.
5 stars, no notes. I would have loved to have Jenny as a teacher.
Yes, or a friend. Just as a quick aside, I did a women's studies kind of subgroup in English literature, and my tutor at the time said, "Can you put your hand up if you think that you're a feminist?" And I was the only one that put my hand up in a class of 30, 40 other young women who had also elected to take this. And she kind of looked at me and she went, "Well, that's one more than last year."
Wow.
And it's that fear of, again, that sort of idea of feminist being a dirty word is so frightening. And I'm so glad that people like Jenny are making sure that her students know that it is incredibly empowered word and it's not frightening or dirty. So thank you, Jenny, for all your hard work. Firstly, appreciate the show. It's my go-to for film reviews and has been for a long time, so thanks to you all. So to Barbie, which I saw with my 9-year-old daughter recently, who loved it. As an aspiring feminist, which I love, it fell very nicely within her development for both film and the issues within, i.e. patriarchy and so on. However, I would like to invite your comments on its very, very binary approach to gender. There is man, Ken, and woman, Barbie. That's it, nothing in between. For me, this seems out of touch with the current climate, missing a chasmatic trick in the process. It would have been a great opportunity to embrace the gender spectrum and the LGBTQ+ community in the process. I consider myself non-woke, to be down with the kids, but found it offensive in its narrow and short-sighted approach. Can I just say, it doesn't sound like you're non-woke, it sounds like you're woke, and that's equally not a dirty word. Overall, for me, it was a 3.5-star movie. My daughter, of course, would say a 5, but then she can be quite hyperbolic. Maybe around a 4 there. This started off as quite a strong email. All the best and keep up the good work. Cheers.
You don't have
Chris.
to correct your daughter's
enjoyment
and personal rating of a movie. If it's a 5-star for her, and as an aside, I mean, it is incredibly reductive to rate films via stars. But if we're choosing to use that, just let her have her 5-star experience.
And you can have your 3.5, yeah?
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's a 4 because her take is, quote, hyperbolic. It's hyperbolic to you, not to her.
So Harry Neff is one of the Barbies.
Yes, she is.
Harry Neff is a transgender woman.
Yes.
It's not explicit in the movie that she is a transgender Barbie.
Yes.
I didn't think it needed to be.
Me either.
What do you think about this in terms of the spectrum of gender being portrayed in the Barbie movie?
I think in the midst of that, like, strange email, there is a point that I also kind of felt, and I'm not exactly sure where I stand on it personally or politically. It is the Barbie world does imply a strict gender binary, doesn't it?
Despite the lack of genitalia.
Exactly. It's the Kens and the Barbies. And then there's Alan. But that in itself is kind of weird. But I wonder, again, I am absolutely still kind of wrestling with my own thinking about this. Is part of the satire about this gender binary, about the fact that, not all Barbies are made the same, not all Kens are made the same. Well, they are, but also they aren't. It's a complicated, strangely simplistic complication, right? Because on the one hand, all the Barbies are Barbie. They're all a part of one, but then they're all very different Barbies to each other. And the thing about the Kens is that they're all very different as well, but they're all just Ken. And then there's Alan. So it's this weird world where the binary is enforced, but it's not making anyone particularly happy, and is really fragile.
Yeah.
And even when, I'm not going to go too much into what happens in the movie, even when that binary is challenged, the only character that sort of keeps their head on their shoulders and sees things as they're unfolding and understands this is not good for anyone is Alan.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like the unsung hero, and he does not fit in this binary. I'm not talking about the gender binary necessarily. I'm talking about kind of the binary of the world, of the Barbies and the Kens.
And who he aligns himself with. He's supposed to be Ken's best friend, but he sees actually what he's doing is wrong. He's like in the Sadiq Khan advertising that's going on at the moment. He's the May guy. I don't know if you've seen this campaign. Where Sadiq Khan is getting men to call out their friends' toxic behavior by going May. Alan is going May in this film. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very curious kind of talking point.
Thank you so much, Chris. A lot of food for thought there, but please do allow your daughter to enjoy films. I'm sure you do, and we're just winding you up. If you want to get in touch with any of your comments about the top 10 or anything that we've covered, then please do drop us a line at correspondence@kermodeandmayo.com. And we're back. So today's guest is the writer and director of new comedy drama starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Tobias Menzies, You Hurt My Feelings. It is, of course, Nicole Holofcener, who you might know as the director and writer of Enough Said, Friends with Money. She also co-wrote Can You Ever Forgive Me? Anna, before we go into the film, can you tell us what it's about?
So this story follows what happens after an author, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, overhears her husband, that's Tobias Menzies, speak ill of her latest literary effort.
Hard no. You're going to hear my interview with Nicole after this clip from the film.
He doesn't love your book, okay? He doesn't love your book. I mean, who cares? Do you understand? I've been working on this book for 2 years, right? I've given him like 1,000,000 drafts to read. And every time he reads it, every single time he tells me how much he loves it. Every single time! Because he just doesn't, get it or whatever. And now my hands have gone numb. Yeah? For real. Okay, can you take a deep breath? I am breathing, Sarah. All right. Would you you're gonna talk to him. Well, that's a joke. I am never gonna be able to look him in the face ever again. Okay, that's over.
That was a clip from You Hurt My Feelings, and I am now joined by the director and the writer of the film, Nicole Holofcener. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
There's so much to talk about. I loved so much about this movie. I guess, one of the first kind of obvious questions is it is about trust and who you trust to read or review some of the things that you hold closest to you. So when it comes to writing a script, who are the trusted people that you show it to first? And is it important to have people who will love it unconditionally as well as the more honest critiques?
No, I don't want anyone to love it unconditionally unless it's done. Unless I say, this is the script I'm shooting tomorrow. Don't tell me your problems. And same with the movie. If I'm done with the movie, until I'm done with something, sure, I love feedback, especially a rough cut of the movie or a first cut. It's always great to get feedback. I don't really give my script to anybody until I'm done. And I've rewritten it. So it feels like maybe a second draft by the time I'll show it to my producers and my agent and a couple of close friends. Short of that, If I'm in big trouble, I'll show the script to a couple of people midstream, but that's usually not a good idea. And I'm usually doing it because I'm stuck and because I shouldn't keep writing.
I love that we've just been joined by 2 guests as well. Look how adorable your dogs are.
Oh, are they here? I can't see. Yeah.
So cute. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is just kind of like such a natural with your work. And I sort of haven't met a single person who didn't love your combo in Enough Said. So what is it about your writing that she particularly gets, do you think, and understands how to convey on screen?
Well, she gets my humor, and, everyone gets her humor. She just has that terrific blend of being natural and hilarious at the same time. She doesn't have to go broad to be funny. And she can switch from emotional to funny in the same line. And for me, that's what I try to do with my films. I feel like that's kind of how life is sometimes. And she just really gets my writing. And I also get and respect what she can offer, meaning let her go, free reign. If you want to say something better, say it. If you want to say something funnier, say it. But she can express so much in her face without doing much. And she's just inherently a very, very funny person and smart and emotional. So why not?
What does she say when she reads a script of yours? Do you get immediate feedback from her? How are your conversations in the aftermath?
Well, for this one, she just said, I'm in, I love it. I'm in, I love it. It changed throughout months of trying to get financing, and it changed for the better. And a lot of it was her input. And, she has great notes. She's a great producer, and she knows what works and doesn't work. And she'd make suggestions, and sometimes I'd take all of them, and sometimes I wouldn't. So it's always a work in progress until, we're shooting that scene. That's still a work in progress. So she's really supportive. And I think once she loves a character and wants to do it, she's all in.
I really love the casting of Tobias Menzies, who I guess for me has always been like this stalwart of British television and film. So for a movie that is like New York through and through, why was he such a good fit for you?
Well, he fit in those shoes so well because he's a wonderful actor. And I loved his presence and his acting, and I sought him out, and there you go. Again, he said, I'm in. And I said, can you do an American accent? And he said, I'd like to try. And I said, okay, but if you stink, it's okay if you do your own accent, your own voice.
Okay.
But he did it really well. And I just, I love that face, and he just fit in really well, right? He's not a New Yorker. So in the press, he keeps saying they live on the Upper East Side, and they don't. They live on the Upper West Side. And if you know New York, there's a really big difference. So I have to school him in.
What other kind of like New Yorkisms was there? Did you have to school him in? Because I guess you shot this in such a short period, but it must have been incredibly intense. And did he have to sort of like learn the sort of New York culture very quickly?
Nah, he didn't. I mean, he's been to New York. He's an educated fella. For instance, like people who don't live in New York don't know that Paragon Sports Store is kind of this iconic New York place you go to get your winter coats. And they have a great sale every year. And that's when you go to get your winter coats. So it's like when I wrote in Paragon, I wanted to tell these guys like, hey, this is actually not just, Big Five or whatever. That's another sports store that we don't go to.
I see.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of the villain often in like British series. And it was so lovely seeing this gentle, supportive side of him, which was gorgeous.
Yeah.
That idea of unconditional support as well is such an interesting one. Can you tell us more about that? Because I don't think I've ever really seen that being unpicked in that way. I've seen it in real life and the effects that has, but I've never seen it in film before. So tell us where that came from.
I mean, I think unconditional support is tricky. Just like their son, Owen, played by Owen Teague, he's like, I don't want your unconditional support. I want to be treated with the complexities that I have. I'm good at this, not good at that. And because he loves her, he just, he doesn't want to go into the area of critiquing her work. He just wants to support her. And because he didn't like the work, that unconditional support turns out to be a lie. It's just really tricky and interested me in wanting to write this. That's why I wanted to write it. It was like, can I get criticism and can someone not like my films or my writing if they like and love me? And I think, it's a really hard question to ask. I mean, I don't want to be with a person who doesn't like my work. That would be just terrible. So, in thinking about what would happen if, this happened to me, which it's just a horror movie for a writer, I think, or anybody who does something creative.
When you're kind of writing about such lifelike, natural stories, do you always have to remind people that these are characters and composites and not exact people in your life or you yourself?
I don't feel very defensive about it. I feel like if people want to think that's, autobiographical in every detail, I don't care. It's not. And I usually say that it's like it's autobiographical, but in a figurative way. It's all about me and the things that interest me and scare me and things I love, and people I love. But I do take it and kind of run with it. But I'm not crazy enough to say, oh, this character isn't me, or all these characters aren't me, because I think inevitably pieces of them are. I cast actresses that I feel reflect me. People will say on the set, she's doing you, and she's not doing me. I just cast really well. And I think, if she's got the cadence of the script and we kind of look alike and we're the same size.
Well, one of the things, the constant eating in this film is just one of my favorite things, like the donuts, the ice cream, the dinners, the lunches. It's so sociable. It's so normal. You're literally just showing us a day in the life of. So did you kind of have reasons behind what you wanted to include food-wise? Because I was kind of really zeroing in on everything. Maybe I was really hungry when I watched this film.
You know what? It was completely unconscious because, what else do people do? They talk and they eat and they walk around and work. It's ironic that I put so much food in it because I actually can't stand the sound of people eating.
Really?
I have what's called misophonia. And so in the editing room, I had to take out all the chewing sounds or drinking sounds or swallowing sounds. So what have I done to myself? I don't know. And some actors eat really well on camera. They can really do it and match it and everything. So, no, it was completely unconscious. And I did want to eat all the cake off the plates of the sets. There was a lot of cake going on in the restaurant scenes. And that was hard for me. The actors were like, take it. They had a spit bucket.
Oh, God. Even that term is so horrific.
Isn't it?
There is also so much joy that comes from the details in your films, like, Beth's mom not wanting to kind of wanting her to use Tupperware for a potato salad. So are you kind of like a magpie in that sense? Do you sort of collect all of these unobtrusive details and stories like this for your work? They just come to you? How do you round it all out with those sort of little brilliant moments?
Well, thank you for saying that. I don't really know how. I know, for instance, my mom has a bag of tinfoil and a closet full of Tupperware, but she would never suggest I put potato salad in tinfoil. But because she has that stuff collected, it just came to me, Also because, people save those things, and including myself, and I don't know why. And she says she doesn't want them in a landfill. But so it's like they just pop into my head. I don't really take notes. I don't know. It's a mystery.
I also love the kind of the female relationships. We kind of get to explore really in-depth female relationships in your movies and sisterhood as much as we do romantic relationships. Why is it important for you to always strike that balance between the two?
I can't say that it's important to me. It's just what comes out of me. It's just it's just what I want to be writing about. I'm not making a point, but the female friendships in my life are so dear to me and can be fraught, with conflict like any other relationship. But that's what consumes me is my romantic relationships and my friendships and human behavior. So there you go. They're just in there.
It's so interesting because I feel like, I take a lot of my kind of life lessons from movies. Generally, as a film critic, I kind of have to. That's my kind of primary source for everything. I'm 3 weeks away from my first year wedding anniversary, and I take a lot of my fears about marriage and children from films that I watch. Is that something,
Right.
that you... Are you...
Congratulations.
Thank you. Are you like a sort of a sponge in that sense too? Do you have like movies which make you reflect on your life?
Well, those are the best kind of movies. And, growing up and watching the kind of movies that influenced me had a huge influence on me. I think they nurtured compassion and encouraged me to be perceptive and really honed in on people's behavior, including my own. And I hope that, my films can do some of that too, aside from entertaining people. But movies are so influential, from the first ones we see to the ones we watch over and over again. Yeah, there's almost, besides books, I think there's almost nothing else that can be that penetrating into who we are, into creating who we are. So don't let the bad movies influence your first year anniversary and how you're supposed to feel about it. You don't have to have a fight, in the restaurant or something, like in a rom-com, right?
Well, speaking of rom-coms, it is, again, it's always refreshing to see a brilliant rom-com. And it sort of feels like they're becoming kind of so few and far between now, and we have like a real nostalgia for really decent rom-coms. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we're sort of seeing less of them on our screens now?
Good question. I guess because they're not tentpole movies. I mean, I think, the big action movies are taking over the industry. And with the amount of marketing that they can put behind them, it swallows everything else up. I mean, as far as I know, rom-coms do really well. So I'm not really sure.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us.
You.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much. You too. I'm very excited. It's going to be premiering on Prime Video on August 8th. So I feel very lucky. It's going to be streaming on August 8th. So watch it, everybody.
So that was Nicole Holofcener talking all about You Hurt My Feelings. Now, Anna, this is a rare opportunity, but as somebody who has written a book, did this film resonate with you in a completely kind of different level to how it might have resonated with me?
I really don't want to use the expression, I felt very seen.
However.
But I might. Especially in that clip, she mentions that she sent over hundreds of drafts of the book to her husband for his feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback is very important for any creative, especially for writers. We're very insecure creatures, especially around writing. And yeah, there is something about the vacuum of no response or no feedback that is truly one of the most horrific sensations I've ever felt.
Yeah.
And I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly shame my partner, who has still not read the short stories that I have sent him to read.
No, Sean.
This is what happens when you ignore my request.
Get your
for
act together.
feedback.
Yeah, you are being publicly shamed. Now you have to read John Ronson's. So now you have been publicly shamed. Very meta.
But I just want to say, I mean, it might seem on the surface like a really minute premise for a film, right? An author, a writer who gets upset, gets hurt feelings, like in the title, because their partner does not like their work or does not like this book, right? And in this movie, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who's made another brilliant film with Nicole Holofcener, Enough Said, which we both rewatched really recently.
And enjoyed immensely.
I mean, the glimmer in your eye is truly terrifying. And I just see Gandolfini popping up in your brain right there.
So do I.
But,
sorry, Anna, carry on.
However, the films of Nicole Holofcener are very much premised in that, in this in this profound ridiculousness of emotional entanglements and of feelings, and of how something so small in the grand scheme of things can just completely overwhelm a life or a relationship, and the complications that arise from, friendships, parenthood, relationships, the intersection of all of those, And it's such a brilliant premise for anyone who's not, you don't have to be a writer, an author, or a creative in order to recognize the feeling of, the impact of a white lie, of trying not to hurt someone's feelings. does this dress look well on me? Do you like my novel? You know, do you like this thing that I've cooked for you? It's genderless, but it is a familiar sensation to all of us. And stretching that out and exploring those emotions and the ridiculousness of them in depth is such a Holofcener hallmark. It's a profoundly enjoyable film. It's very much about the performances. It's about the charisma of all the actors, you know, alongside Louis Dreyfus and Menzies. We've got Michaela Watkins and Arian Moayed, who obviously played Stu in Succession.
Amazing to see him in such a different role, like a really insecure,
like theater actor.
Yes.
And they bounce off each other so well. And, they also, the marriage of Beth and Don, who are, the lead characters, also have a teenage son. And their relationship comes into play. And none of the characters in the film are bad people. And their complications might be sort of considered small or very New York-y or very kind of middle upper class, which is not untrue. But that's the beauty of it. It's such a green tea kind of afternoon film,
Yes.
It's a perk me up. It is profound. It is really fun to watch. And genuinely, it's really refreshing, I think, when there are films like these that feel really middlebrow in a sense. They're smart, they're funny, but they're also unassuming. They're unpretentious. And they are probing at very particular experiences of being a human alive who has relationships of different kinds with people and is alive in the world and trying to do something with their life. And also, I think more widely what the film looks at is, what does success or failure feel like for people? Because both Beth and her husband Don are not necessarily kind of hyper successful New Yorkers. Beth is not a master successful novelist. She wrote one memoir and she's really aching and trying to get a novel off the ground, and she's teaching creative writing to people. And the frustrations of essentially being sort of in the middle with your career. And similarly, Dawn, her husband, is a therapist, but not, a incredibly successful or super rich kind of therapist. Those everyday frustrations are so well captured in the film. It's almost imperceptible. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of, a filmmaker like Nicole Holofcener. She makes it look so easy and effortless that you cannot be blamed for ignoring or kind of missing or just having the craft and the detail of what she's put on the page and on the screen kind of wash over you, because it is also so deeply enjoyable.
She does make the ordinary feel so incredibly extraordinary.
Yes, precisely.
Because they are ordinary people. And I loved that portrayal of the son who sort of feels like he's a third wheel in this relationship between his parents, which I've never really thought about before, but what an interesting concept. And again, it's those sort of life lessons that you don't really realize that you're soaking up until you're perhaps going through it yourself. And the whole idea of unconditional love, which, I get in spades from my mum, always have done. And I know that I will show her any work and she will love it. And actually, I love that. I would be really upset if she suddenly was like, actually, I don't think this is very good. That would break me at this point, because it has gone on my entire life. So if I did something that she didn't like, it would mean that she really didn't like it. And I don't think I could handle that.
Oh, you see, one of the things I really loved about your interview with Nicole was that she talked about like kind of not expecting and in fact kind of not demanding unconditional support from her peers or the people who were, reacting to her work or feeding back into it kind of in a creative capacity. I'm very similar. I want edits. I want genuine feedback. I never have
I do
wanted
from my peers, for sure. Like, I absolutely would always take on board constructive criticism and I ask for it. I don't always get it because I think sometimes people are afraid to tell me how they feel. I don't know why. But, do feel free. Thank you so much. What a beautiful review of a beautiful film. You hurt my feelings. Now it is time for the laughter lift.
Oh, God.
Let's get in. Hey, Anna, I'm coming up to my 1-year anniversary.
Yes.
I did mention it in the interview. You were at my wedding.
I'm aware. I'm getting a glare in my glasses from your giant ass ring.
Well, anyway, some of my friends got married recently, having met online. They just clicked.
No. Nothing clicks anymore. There's no clicking. It's all touchscreen.
That kind of made me want to vom, actually, Hannah. Anyway, this might be news to you, Anna, but Mike is in a band. apparently. So for our anniversary, I bought him a new drum kit. It was a symbol of my love.
No.
Ba-dum-bum.
Oh, dear. Oh, I can see our producer, Hannah, laughing and also cowering in shame. And you know what? That is the appropriate response.
I can't believe that you're building my family into these terrible jokes. Anyway, Mark and Simon have been in touch from the Grand Union Canal, and they wanted to know, how does one know if you're getting a good deal on a boat? I explained, usually just when there's a sale on it. That's actually quite funny. Where, look, vindicated, Hannah. Where do zombies like to go sailing, Anna?
Where?
Guess.
I can't.
The Dead Sea.
No.
Yes. Anyway, what's still to come?
I've completely forgotten. My brain has turned into mush. But yes, we still have one more review to go and take one, and that will be the raunchy girl comedy Joyride.
We'll be back after this, unless you're a Vanguardista, in which case we'll be back shortly. It's time for, I think possibly, is this a spoiler to say already? It's my film of the week. I just had such a good time with this, Anna. It's Joyride. Tell us about it, and then we're going to hear a clip.
I think instead of summarizing the film, I'm going to do a content warning for any listeners. This is very much an 18 R-rated, raunchy, filthy comedy, very much in the vein of Bridesmaids. So before I go into any details of the film, if you have any children listening with you in the room, in the car, now would be the time to pause and move on, because there is simply no way to talk about Joyride without dropping some raunchy adult words. So let's get a little taster of the film via this clip.
Consider yourself warned.
Been around only Asian people. I mean, we look like everyone else for once. I think we blend right in.
Yeah, but people here can tell Chinese from American Chinese.
What do you mean?
See? Okay. Hong Kong Chinese, Bluetooth. Shanghai Chinese, bougie. Ooh. Taiwanese, weird but cute.
Aww. What kind of Chinese are they?
What's wrong with you? Are you trying to get canceled? Those are Koreans.
Oh.
That's Howdy Fun! It's a K-pop group! Yeah, they all have the same face. That's how you can tell.
So hopefully only adults are listening to this now.
Yep.
Joyride is the debut feature by writer-director Adele Lim, who actually is the co-writer of Crazy Rich Asians, which was a massive success a few years ago. And it tracks the titular Joyride of a group of childhood friends. Some of them estranged, some of them, lifelong buddies. It's got Ashley Park from Emily in Paris as the lead. She's Audrey. She's a very kind of, tightly knit, really successful lawyer. She's been best friends all her life with Lolo, who's an aspiring, really raunchy artist. She loves to do sex positive and body positive artwork. Includes a lot of appendages as inspiration, played by Sherry Cola, and Stephanie Su as Kat Hong, who they meet in China, where they travel to lock down a deal for Audrey's law firm. And tagging along with them, as we've seen in the clip, is Deadeye, who is a K-pop stan and a childhood friend, cousin of Lolo's character. They all band together on this trip, and also along the way, they are on a mission to reunite Audrey with her birth mother, who gave her up for adoption by Americans very early on in her life. Now, like I mentioned before, I don't know about you. I know about you, Rhianna Dhillon.
Yeah.
I know we both love a nice raunchy comedy.
Yes, we do.
And this is very much that.
Yes, it is.
I don't think I've seen a film this outrageously, deliciously, and hilariously filthy since Bridesmaids. I have not seen so many and both on screen and in the script since Bridesmaids. I have never seen a close-up full frontal shot of a tattooed vagina in a movie ever. And this happens. And you know what? I loved every minute of it. I was like,
how is Anna going to approach the review of this film. It's going to be tricky. She might have to use a lot of metaphors. She might have to use... No!
There's no way.
In.
There's absolutely no way of...
Birdsong it is.
Birdsong everything, because I think it would be misrepresenting the film if you talk about Joyride in a PG way, because it is strictly and very deliberately non-PG.
Yes.
It is hilarious. All the performers or the characters are so outrageous and extreme. All of them are so horny. So every single man in this film is both unbelievably good looking, like to a genuinely obscene degree, and gets fawned over, pawed, like physically traumatized and damaged by just the sheer raging horniness emanating from these women. Good for them.
But also,
good
like, we've seen films where sexy women are inexplicably drawn to the male protagonists. And although there is kind of less of an inexplicable nature to this because all of the women are incredible, I like that whoever they have their eye on, we get this incredible sex scene out of it.
We don't get a sex scene. We get a sex montage.
We get a sex montage, so specifically about female pleasure.
Absolutely.
And I remember last time we were on, we were bemoaning the lack of female pleasure in a terrible Netflix series that we had to review. And it is so the opposite in this. And, I just thought it was beautiful. I really did. It made me so happy.
Fun.
It made me howl with laughter. But as you kind of mentioned up top, there is, of course, a really kind of sensitive side to this, which reminded me of Return to Seoul, which I kind of saw fairly recently, again, about the sort of a birth, trying to find a birth mother.
Yes.
And this was so unexpectedly sweet. It made me cry the hardest that I've cried in the cinema for really quite some time.
Really?
Just so unexpected in this like completely out there, like you say, naughty film.
You're absolutely right, because while all the jokes are very upfront and very front and center, the heart and the foundation of Joyride really is this double kind of approach for, on the one hand, and as we saw illustrated in the clip, probably the only clip without F-bombs in the entire movie, is about how people see Asian people as a monolith and kind of the experience of that. And at the same time, it's looking at the diasporic experience, notably kind of essentially Audrey, who's the de facto protagonist, doesn't speak Chinese.
Yeah.
So she has to enlist her friends to be a translator for her on this business trip.
Because she was adopted by white parents.
Exactly.
American parents.
By white American parents. So she essentially grew up in a white environment, and her friendship with Lolo comes from the fact that they were the only two Asian girls in their entire town.
Yeah.
So even though it's incredibly funny, it is also at the heart of it touching on a very particular and a very, broad experience for Asian people, for Asian women, and kind of more widely even for any immigrants or children of immigrants who might, connect with that experience of not feeling truly like they belong neither in their country of origin or their adopted country.
Agreed. You will have so much fun with this movie as long as you don't take it seriously. If you're a fan of Seth Rogen, he's the producer on this.
Knocking it out of the park with the Turtle movie last week and Joyride this week.
This is true. I just feel like, that separation from James Franco has been a real boon. Well done. It is time now for listener correspondence. And remember to email yours to correspondence@kermodeandmayo.com.
Hi folks, it's Helen here from the Honourable Society of Lincoln's Inn in London. An inn of court for more than 600 years, Lincoln's Inn is also a popular filming location for TV and film including Wonder Woman, Cruella, Downton Abbey and The Sandman. On Saturday the 9th and Sunday the 10th of September, we'll be opening our doors to the public for Open House Festival. Drop in for free from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and come and explore this amazing location. Visit lincolnsinn.org.uk to find out more.
This is Jamie Alton, just telling you about my Edinburgh Fringe show. Jamie Alton Goes to the Movies, a stand-up comedy special that takes a light-hearted look at the issues we've got at cinema and going to the movies, especially how to deal with people who talk through trips to the cinema, which we resolve in the show. I'll be at the East Side venue at 1:15 p.m. every day at the Edinburgh Fringe, losing money. Thanks.
That was Helen from the Lincoln's Inn and Jamie promoting his Edinburgh Fringe show on at 1:15 p.m. every day of the festival. Don't let him lose any money on that. Anna.
And I'll be in Edinburgh for a good chunk of August.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I'll be there because I work for the Edinburgh International Film Festival, and then we'll be running and doing screenings of genuinely some amazing films from all over the world from the 18th to the 23rd of August. So come and watch some movies in Edinburgh.
Go and hang out with Jamie and Anna at the same time if you want. Maybe not. Send your 20-second audio trailer about your event anywhere in the world to correspondence@kermodemayo.com. I'm really sad to say, Anna, that is the end of Take One. I've had so much fun.
I'm devastated.
This has been a Sony Music Entertainment production. The team was Lily Hambley, Ryan O'Meara, Gully Tickle, Scarlett O'Malley was the assistant producer, Michael Dale wrote the guest notes, Hannah Talbot was the producer, and Redactor S. Anna, what is your film of the week?
Oh, can I have a tie? I kind of want to have a tie between You Hurt My Feelings and Joyride.
Go on.
What a great double bill that would be.
Between You Hurt My Feelings and Joyride. I think for me it's going to be Joyride just because I loved and cried and I want to make sure that all of my friends see this movie, and it's the most girly, bro-y film I've ever seen, I think, which I loved.
Go with Joyride.
Don't forget, we have Take 2 coming, and then in Take 3, you'll hear Mark and Simon live from the Grand Union Canal. I know you've missed them. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you very soon.
Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's Take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.